Hey, this is Andrew Brown. In this video, we're going to take a look at AWS Glue. And so I want to accomplish two things. I want to create a table in the AWS Glue data catalog, and I want to run a basic ETL or ELT, whichever initialism is what we are doing. I can't remember the difference between them off the top of my head, but there is a key difference. And so in here, I have a folder already called Glue. And of course, we're using our AWS examples repo as per usual to get us rolling here. So I'm just looking for it here. There it is. And I have a README in here. And so the idea is that we want to create an S3 folder that's going to store our data. And then what we'll do is upload or download some data, upload the data, create a Glue database, and then attempt to create a crawler, which will in turn create a table. We'll do some ClickOps so we can kind of see what it is that we're doing before we do it. But let's go ahead and first create our table because we're absolutely going to need that. So we'll go ahead and copy, paste, and allow. You might have to change the numbers here on the end because these are unique. And so I've created a bucket in my account. And I was looking for just any kind of free data to download. And there's this website called catalog.data.gov. And I just went to the first one, which was electric vehicle population data. And I downloaded the CSV file here. So I already have this link ready to go with curl. If this doesn't work for you, you might have to manually download it or find a different data source. But I'll go ahead and download that. And I'm hoping that it went into the data folder here. So I don't think I have a data folder here. Let me just create it. And if there isn't a folder, it wouldn't have downloaded to it. It would just mess up. So I'm going to go ahead and just put a keep here. And I'm just going to say .csv on this so that at least keeps some of this here. So we'll just have data folder for Glue. And I'm going to go back over to here, and we'll go ahead and try to download this again. Failed to output to the destination, which is fair enough. Still not working correctly. What we can do is I can just go ahead and change this to, I can just change this to vehicle. And I know this will work. If you're wondering how I got this link, all I did, so it just went here, and I just hovered over here and copied the link there. That's how I got that link in here. But anyway, so we've downloaded the data maybe. Oh, it's an AWS examples. That's why it's not working, because I'm not in the right folder. So I can put the data back in there. And we'll cd into Glue down below, and we will try this again for the millionth time. We'll paste that in there. And still doesn't like it. So I'll just go ahead and say, well, what if I do this? Will that work? Originally when I did this, I didn't test it fully. So yeah, we'll just do vehicle here. Sorry for the mess. And we'll copy this. We'll hit enter. And so in our Glue folder, we have our vehicle. We're going to drag this over to data. We'll move that over to here. And so now this is in the appropriate area. I just want this to get ignored so that we don't have to commit this file because this file can be kind of large. It's about 22 megabytes. I don't want it in my repo. So we now have that. We'll go ahead and upload the file. So I'll copy this. You might have to change this based on your bucket, probably most likely, as other people probably create this bucket and you'll run into issues. And it says that the file does not exist. I'm not sure why I'm having such a hard time copying this. Let's try this, I guess. Copy, paste, enter. All right. I'll just change it to like this. I'm not sure why I'm having so many problems here today. But I will... Oh, I'm not even in the right folder. That's why none of this is working. I have a subfolder called Data Catalog here. I am just a hot mess here today. We'll go ahead and copy, paste, and hit enter here. And so now it's uploading that 22 megabyte vehicle.csv file. Let's open up and take a look at what's in it. It is large, so it doesn't like that you're opening up here, but you can see we have country, city, state, postal code, a bunch of information. And so that is good. The next thing we'll need to do is go over to the AWS Glue UI. And they've changed it since last time I've been here because they have legacy pages. And then there was an intermediate one, and now this is the latest one. So you can see there's a lot going on here, but let's go over to data catalog tables. So data catalog is a way of defining metadata information about your data and its schema, and it would point to the source or the source of the target, but it's not holding the data, but it's holding a reference to it and then metadata around it. And so we can go ahead and create a table this way. This time around, we're not going to do that. We're going to use the crawler, but the idea is that we'd fill in a name. We need to have a database. We'd have to choose a table format. So in this case, it'd be S3. Notice that we could choose iceberg table, which I think that would have to be a very specific format. that we'd have to present it as, and we have data formats. So that is one way that we could do this. But the reason I don't want to do it this way, and I'll just quickly show you why I don't want to do it this way, is that if we were to create one here, and I'm not doing this for real, I'm just kind of doing whatever. I'm just going to choose this here. This doesn't matter. And if I go next, we'd have to actually define our schema manually. So we'd have to add each column and everything. And we could do that in a separate video, but I really don't want to do this here. We could also add partition indexes. And I believe that is if you, let's say in S3, you had different folders that were your partition, then you could define those as well. We're not going to get into partitions here as of yet, but I want to add it using the crawler. So we can go through here and do it this way, but it would be really nice if we could accomplish this using the glue crawler. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create my database for AWS Glue. So I'm going to go ahead and paste this in. Whoops, wrong line. I want to copy this one and paste this in down below. And my database is called my database. So that is very straightforward. Normally you'd create the database when you go ahead and create your table. So when you hit add table here, you'd have to hit that button to create it. And because I don't see databases anywhere else here unless it's under legacy. No, so that's how you'd have to do. Oh, it's right here. What am I talking about? It's right here. So yeah, so we have our database here. And I mean, there's not much to fill in. It's just the name, right? So now the next thing we want to do is create a crawler. And so I did not fully configure this because I wanted to do this together with you. And I'm going to go ahead and grab the AWS CLI so we can look it up together. So grab this link here. I'll just paste it here so we can get to it later on. And so we need to name our crawler. We're going to need a role for our crawler. We'll need the database, which is actually called my database. We need a path to our target. So this will be for our S3 directory. So this is under data. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. Okay, and paste this in like this. So that would be our target path. Do we need a prefix table? I don't think I need one, but we'll go take a look here and see. So say table prefix. They didn't have any examples here, so I kind of asked ChatGPT to help me out a little bit. The table prefix used for the catalog tables when they were created, it doesn't say that we can omit it or it's optional, so I guess we'll leave it in, which is fine. But I'm just seeing if there's anything else here. This is going to be an on-demand job because we're not specifying it on a schedule, so that is fine. Do we have any configuration in here? We do not. So let's go to, yeah, see, we could do it on schedule if we want to. But what I'm going to look at here is configuration. It says crawler configuration versioning. Let's look at the options. I'm just curious if there's something that we're missing out on that we might want. And I don't think so. They're talking about partitioning, which is something we'll cover maybe in another video. But I mean, that looks okay. We're not using any classifiers, so that would be probably a way to structure or do something with the data. But we're not specifying the output path for the data, which I thought that's something we would have to specify here. And we need a glue job, but let's go ahead and just pretend that we're going to make a table this way, and then we'll just kind of back out and try to use the CLI for it. Just say my crawler, and then we go next. And then data source configuration doesn't exist yet, so we'd have to add a data source, and it would be S3. And then down below here, we'd have to choose our table. And this table is called, not sure why it's not showing our table that we created here. We definitely created, there it is, right there. And then we would choose data /, and then we say add the source. And then we go down here. We don't need a classifier, so we'll hit next. And this is where we need to create an IAM role. So this is something we'll need. This can actually create it for us. It says only IAM roles created by AWS Glue Console have the prefix AWS Glue Service role. Can be updated. So we don't have to create it from here, but we absolutely can. And I think I already have one from before, so I'm just going to choose this one, even though this is not what I really actually want right now. We'll go ahead and hit next. And we choose the target database. And what I'm looking for, so we don't have to provide it a table prefix. We don't have to. Let's get rid of that. I wish they'd tell us in the docs. And we go to advanced options, output and scheduling. say my database. So I was hoping we could say output it into the same table. And I could have swore I remember setting that up, but again, I'm not seeing that here. Next. Table prefix. So it seems like everything's configured. The only thing we have to do is create an IAM service role. So let's go take a look at what we'd have to do for that. So I already have this one. Let's go take a look at this one, and I'll grab the code and I'll place it in the repo so that you can just grab it very quickly. But let's take a look at what it actually wants us to do. So this is the trust policy. I'm going to go ahead and grab this. And I'm going to go and say, create IAM role. Or I'll go here and just say, I'll make a new folder here, JSON. And I'll make this the trust policy. And I'll paste that in here. Very clear. Let Glue assume the role. That makes sense. And if we go back over to here and I go to permissions, we have, this is one I created. That's what I had to do to get us access to stuff. So I'm going to remove that because that is not a great policy here. I'm just going to delete that there. But we have AWS service role. So that is a managed one that we want to utilize. And then they have this one here, which is specifying the crawler for the table. So this is so that it has access to the table. So what I'm going to do is copy this over here. I'll just say policy, JSON, and we'll go ahead and paste that in here. And this table is probably a different name, so I'm going to go ahead and copy this one here. And I think I actually have the same table name. So yeah, whatever you have to change for yours, change it in here. I'm going to be a little bit more available for this and say allow it for the entire S3 bucket, because when we output it, I'm going to want to output it to the same S3 bucket. And so this is going to do that for me. So the other thing that we need to know is that we need to know that we need to add this managed role. So I'm going to go over here and just say, before this, we'll say create IAM role. And I know we created IAM roles somewhere in here, maybe under our IAM section, policies. If we can already just grab the code, that'd be really nice. That'd save us some time. That would create a policy version. Let me see if I can get the code very quickly. I'm just going to go ask ChatGPT to generate out for me, just quickly, okay? All right, so I got ChatGPT to generate out me these three. I don't know why I have not, in all these other videos, taken the time to get these three components, because if we had this code, I'd copy and paste it, and we would have saved ourselves a lot of click ops. But whatever, maybe from now on, I'll do that. So the first thing we'll do is create our role with our trust policy. So we'll go ahead and try that. Hopefully that works. And so I think that has worked. Then we'll need to place our S3 access policy, which is next. And that seems like that's working. And then we will attach the managed policy. Now I'm assuming that this role is here. Sometimes these service roles do not exist, and you might have to first use a crawler or something like that. I'm hoping that you don't run into that issue, but for the most part, generally these things are around, but I can't tell with my account whether that's the case or not, so I apologize if you run into problems there. I want to make sure that this service role is properly set up. We're going to make our way over to roles, and we'll search for this one that we just created, assuming it is in here. And there we go. I'll click into this, and we'll double check it. So we have the service role, which provides access to whatever. Yep, and notice that it's giving access to this AWS Glue folder, because it will make its own folder called AWS Glue, which we'll see here. And then I have the one that I want to have, because you will have to provide access for this stuff, whatever it needs to run. But anyway, let's go back over to here. And the next thing we need to do is create our actual crawler. So I'm hoping that this will just work. If it doesn't, we can just do click ops, but we'll see. Oh, that worked. Wow. Okay, that was easy. Let's go over to here and take a look. I was expecting it to be harder, to be honest. But we'll go over here to our crawlers. And so now we have our crawlers. This one here, I don't know what this is. This is probably an older one, so I'm going to go ahead and delete it. And, oh, maybe that was the one we just created, actually. Sorry. It's because I have this one here from earlier today and I'm getting confused. So this one's my on-demand crawler. So I'm going to just rename this to my crawler basic. And we'll go ahead and copy this. We'll paste it in down below. And we'll give this a refresh. And we'll click into this. And so the idea now is that we want to run our crawler. So I'm going to use ClickOps for this. I think this is totally fine. So if we click that, I think it just will run. We'll refresh here. And it says it's attempting to start. There we go. And it's running here. So this is going to take a little bit of time to run. It doesn't usually take too long. What kind of compute does it use underneath? I have no idea. Could we have specified that? I didn't see any options for that because it's a serverless service. But we're just going to have to wait here and see what happens. There are these DPU per hour, so that's probably the cost involved. So just say glue. So DPU hours. So I think that's the capacity, or that's the cost per whatever it is. So if we look that up, we could probably find the price. I'm not really worried about it. If you are worried about it, don't do these labs. Just watch me do it. But we'll wait here and wait for this to complete. Okay. And the crawler is complete. So let's go take a look and see what we can see. If we go into our CloudWatch logs, there's probably nothing that exciting in here, but we'll take a look and see what it's producing. So here we can see the crawler started. Yeah, it's doing stuff. Yeah, nothing exciting. That's what I thought. And we'll get out of here. And we'll see we have our data source there. We didn't obviously have any classifiers. So nothing that interesting. But if we go over to our databases and then into our My Database, we can see now we have our table here. Data is probably not the best name for a table, but that is what ours is called. And we'll go over to here and we can see the schema. So this is the fields that were in there. And notice that it's translating the type. So we have string, big int, things like that. So those are fine. We obviously aren't using partitions right now, but if we did, we would see them here. And then obviously if we had partition indexes, we'd see them here. I'm not sure what this is for. This is obviously new. And then data quality is also new. So I'm not, again, 100% sure about that. But I imagine if we're working with lots of amounts of data, that probably be valuable. But now we have our data catalog. And so table. Our data catalog table can be used for a variety of things. We can use them in our ETL jobs. We can also use them in lake formation and a bunch of other services. Today, what we're going to do is set up an ETL job. And this has become so much easier with the Visual ETL tool. We can programmatically write it, but to be honest, we can do most of what we need to do using the ETL tool for anything basic. So we'll go ahead and start a new Visual ETL. And I'm going to choose the Glue data catalog. Now, we didn't necessarily have to put everything in a Glue data catalog. We could have made our source the Amazon S3 bucket because it was already in a CSV format. But there, again, are advantages of having that data Glue catalog table format. So it's always advantageous to set that up for discovery and other purposes. But anyway, what I want to do is go over to transforms and let's see what we could do with this here. Now we could probably apply SQL to it, but I want to go ahead and make a filter. So we'll go down here. And I'm just playing around here. It's nothing in particular that we really want to do with this data because it's not like a super fancy example. When we go into filter here, we can go to add a condition and then we can say something like, it should show us the keys. Oh, you know what? Did we choose? Yeah, we chose that. And I'm not sure why. Why it's having an issue here. Let's go take a look here. The data preview will be displayed when following nodes are correctly configured. AWS Glue data catalog. So I guess it's suggesting we didn't configure this yet. Fair enough. We should probably choose our table here. So it was my database. And then choose our table, which is called data. And so now if we go down below here, we should be able to choose a value. So we have city. And if we look at this data, I've looked at it already before. And so this provides a bunch of different cities for electric cars. And so there's a bunch of places that are in the Washington state. I don't know the Washington state that well, but I believe Olympia is probably a town, unless Thurston is the town. I don't know. So I'm going to look for a name that I recognize, that I know for sure exists. Kirkland. I know Kirkland is a town, so I'm going to go ahead and copy that. I believe Olympia is a town, but again, I'm not from the area, so I don't really know. But we'll say it matches this value here, all right? And that will be our condition. And so down below, we have this data preview. And what we can do is I can go select my service role, which has access to that S3 bucket. And if we start the session, what it's going to do is it's going to apply this and show us the stuff. It's actually running the pipeline. That's what it's really doing underneath here. And so this will actually consume DPUs. But this is very useful if you're trying to build this over time and work through the steps, because sometimes it's very hard to debug these things. So having this data preview as you work through it is really great. So we'll just give it a moment there to figure that out, okay? It says the data preview is ready. Okay, will show me my data. And I don't know, before when I used this, it worked fine. It would just show me the data here, but it seems a bit delayed. I'm sure it'll appear at some point, but let's just continue on. And so we have the filter. Another thing I might want to do is drop some fields. There are a lot of fields. So I'm going to drop some fields here. We'll drag this on over to here, and I'll click into this. And if we're filtering everything for the particular city, I don't need to know the city, the state, the country. I don't need to know those values there. I don't need the postal code. But we could simplify this a bit further and maybe just take out like this, and the range, and this, and its location. And so we'll just have VIN, year, make, and model. I'm also going to want to add a UUID because some of these fields are going to look basically identical, and that's not going to be great. So this will just append a UUID to our table. So there we go. Now, could we go back and see our visualization of our data? And then down below, it's still not showing us anything. I'm really surprised. But yeah, last time I used it, this worked fine. So all I can think of is I might have typed Kirkland in wrong, but I'm pretty sure that is correct. So I'm happy with our pipeline. I want to go over to job details because I just want to show you here. We can name our jobs. So say my ETL job. And down below, notice that we can specify our Python or Scala, what glue version we're using. So we're sticking with 4 here. What worker type we're utilizing. So the lows here is the G1X, which is totally fine. And that is pretty straightforward. So we'll go ahead and save this. And now that I've saved the job, I'm going to go ahead and run it. And we'll go over to the run details, which is just over here. It's the job run monitoring. And we're going to wait for this to complete. You can see I had a few jobs there before. I had a failure because I forgot to provide permissions for this job. And so I believe this job is using the same role as our glue table. And that's why I made it so that it could access it everywhere, because it's going to have to output it somewhere. And I wanted to go to the same folder, which, by the way, I don't think I specified where it was going to go. So now I'm just curious. If we go back to our job while that is running, and I'm trying to find our jobs. There we go. Where is it going to output to? Because I didn't tell it what folder to output to. I just remember setting it before, but whatever, that's fine. I'm sure it'll go somewhere. And we'll just go back here and we'll just wait for this job to complete, okay? Yeah, we'll go to view run details here. Okay, and we can also see what's happening in real time. So I guess if there was an issue, maybe we could see it in the driver logs. But again, we'll just wait for this to complete, whether it fails or it succeeds, okay? All right, so that succeeded to run, so that is great. I noticed it has the number of workers of 10, and so there's 10 DPUs. Maybe there is an association between those two. Where did it output? Because again, I don't know where it thinks it's going. Where I'd like it to go is into an output directory, and I could have swore before I set it as that, but I'm gonna go here and just take a look and see if it can tell us where this stuff is going. So what I'm going to do is open up a new tab. I'm going to go take a look at our S3 bucket. I'm hoping that it's gone back into the S3 bucket that we had from before. So if we go into here, now we have data, and then we go to assets. So where did it go? And I'm just checking the date here. I'm just wondering if it replaced the existing one. I hope it didn't do that. This one says 42 megabytes. I guess maybe that is its size. 1346 would be 1, so this is definitely older. But where did the data go? That's what I don't understand. So I think like when I did this the first time, I did everything with ClickOps, and so I set something to go somewhere. But let's go back in our job and take a look here and see if we can figure out where the freaking outputs are. Oh, you know what it is? We didn't set an output. So we're supposed to choose a target here. This is silly. And then we put this here, and then that's how it works. Okay, great. That makes sense. Okay, and this is where we had chosen the output. And so now what we can do is choose a format. So I can say something like JSON. And from here I can browse, and I'm going to choose glue. And this will be in this one here. And then now what I can do is choose /output as our table. And I'm going to tell it not to update the data catalog because I'm just trying to transfer the data. I don't want to actually change the schema, but that's something we could do. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to go ahead and run this again. And then this time, we're going to get the result that we actually want. I think it might have already started. I might have started it twice. Let's go back here and take a look. It's running, and so we'll just wait for this job to complete, okay? All right, so it looks like our ETL job is done. We'll go ahead and view the run details. It was successful, which is a great indicator. So let's, before we do that, let's just go down here and take a look at metrics. So there's just some stuff down here. And then we have the Spark UI. So this is another thing that we can take a look at. And I'm not sure why it's not visualizing because before, when I utilized this, it worked totally fine. Let's try this again. I'll go down below here. Maybe it's just crying on that one attempt. There we go. And so you can see more information about how the job ran, because I believe it's using Apache Spark underneath. So that kind of makes sense as to what's going on here. And, you know, we can see stages and storage and additional things here. Super fun. But let's go over to our bucket. We'll give this a refresh. And if we go into our output, we should be able to open this up. So I'm just going to see if I can open this up in the browser. No, but I can open this up in something. So I'm just going to, oh, it's archived. So I can't open it then. I think it's, what I forgot to do was I should have told it not to compress the file. So if we go down to here, it should be none. But I can try opening this file up here. I'm going to see if I can open it up in Visual Studio Code or something. But I'm pretty sure Snappy is a, yeah, it's a binary encoded file. So what I'll do here is I'll explicitly choose none. And we'll go back over to our bucket because I want to be able to actually see the data. Otherwise, that's silly to me. And I'm going to delete this one. And we will run this one more time. Let's save this. And yeah, I don't want any compression. And we'll run it again. And then hopefully this time we'll see something more interesting, okay? There we go. That one is now complete. Let's go back over to our bucket. We'll take a look at our output. Notice we don't have .snappy on the end here. I'm going to see if I can open this again. No, it downloads it. That's totally fine. And I'm just going to go over to here. And we'll just drag it on into our data directory. Assuming that will upload. Try this again one more time. There we go. And so now you can see, I can just try to zoom out here. You can see our data. And I think it did what we wanted. We have a UID, our make, our VIN, our model. The only thing I don't understand that's in here is the eligibility. So that shouldn't have been in here. And electric utilities shouldn't have been in here. But maybe we forgot to omit them. Or maybe there's something weird about the data. So I just want to quickly take a look at that. And we'll look at the drop fields option. Oh, you know what? We did not check off this one. And so that's probably the reason why. But for the most part, it worked pretty well. So hopefully that gives you an idea how you can utilize AWS Glue. You can, of course, also set these on a schedule if you want to. So if we went here, we could create one and then choose the frequency down below. I'm not sure what the syntax would be using AWS CLI. It might be a cron job because this kind of looks like this is what this would map to. But anyway, let's go ahead and clean up all this stuff. So trying to think the order into which we do this. So maybe the first thing we'll do is get rid of our job. So we'll go into ETL jobs, and I'm gonna go ahead and delete this job. So that'll be the first step. And then we'll go over to our catalog, and we'll click into our databases, and I'll go see if we can delete this table. Hopefully it'll let us do that. Okay, great. Now I'm gonna go ahead and delete the database. Excellent. Then I'm gonna go over to our crawler and get rid of our crawler. Then we're gonna make our way over to our buckets. I'm going to empty the assets one here. Say permanent delete. So I'll get rid of this one. We'll go back over to here, and we will delete this bucket. And we'll get rid of that one. We will go over to this one here. We will empty this bucket. And we will go over to here, and we will delete this one as well. There we go. So I think everything is now cleaned up and we are in good shape. I'm going to go ahead and return this back to its normal window size if I can. Reset. Here we go. And I just wanted to see if I need to commit anything here. I do not want this. Take that out of there. And good. Glue basics. And I'll see you in the next one, okay? Ciao.